was you? No.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy without his pants on? That was you.
Yeah, the guy with no pants driving the taxi, that was me.
Welcome to the Two Authors Chat Show, an entertaining podcast with two best-selling authors connecting readers with an eclectic array of distinguished guests through lively conversation and interviews. Hosted by mystery, suspense and thriller writers Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Hope everybody's doing great. How you doing today, Nick?
I am fan-freaking-tastic.
Fan-freaking-tastic. Awesome. What have you been up to now? Where are you at? Where in the world is Nicholas Harvey?
Well, as we record this, we're about to head to Bonaire via Miami because we can't get there directly. So we're going to hop up to Miami, then fly down to Bonaire. So we changed our plans a little bit. We were on St. Martin for 3 months and then Bonaire for 3 months, and we mixed it up a little bit. St. Martin has been fantabulous. We actually went to Sabre the other weekend for a couple of days, which is magnificent, and the diving was incredible. Yeah, but we moved up our change down to Bonaire. There was an opportunity to stay in the place that we're going to that we've rented down there for an extra month on the front side. So, and with the shore diving down there, we're like, yeah, we got to go.
Do tell, for those of us who are less, geographically knowledgeable, where is Bonaire in comparison to every other island?
Do you know where India is?
No,
it's nowhere near that.
Okay,
yeah. It is. So most people have heard of Aruba.
Right.
And
yes.
Some people have heard of Curacao. And then there's a scattering of people that have heard of Bonaire. So the ABC Islands, and there's 3 islands in a row, and they're just north of Venezuela. So they're in the most southern part of the Caribbean. And they're actually below the hurricane belt, which I say carefully because when we're down there, it's pretty much guaranteed we'll suck a hurricane down across us. But yeah, great place. It's super well known amongst divers as a diving mecca. The way the island's shaped, it drops in and has reefs really close to the shore and then kind of goes on down to about 60, 70 feet with slightly deeper reefs. So it's really accessible. You just walk in the water and they have these brilliant little yellow rocks by the side of the road. So you drive around these little lanes around the island and you look for these yellow rocks, and they've painted the yellow rock with the name of the dive site. And
that's awesome.
And if you get a Resmart dive guide, which is about the only way to go, it tells you where to look for and what the topography is of the dive and the whole bit. So yeah, where we'll be staying, awesome. There's Barrier Reef is right out front of where we'll be staying. So you just walk in the water and go diving. It's epic. So looking forward to that.
You just had a book come out too, didn't you?
Burning Summer.
Yes,
Burning Summer
Nora.
came out on the 26th.
Yeah,
I love writing Nora. She's so much fun. And it was very well received. So thank you very much, everybody, for
it's very good. Nora's amazing. She's a lot of fun too.
Yep. So what have you been doing?
Well, talking about kick-ass women, I just finished up a short story for an anthology that I think you're in too, but right now I've tentatively called it the Outcall Girl. So it's going to be a new character. I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything else with her, but she was a lot of fun to write just as a kick-ass woman who kind of set it someplace cold, which is really unusual for me. I don't like the cold weather that much, but this one's set in Colorado in the middle of a blizzard. So
wait a second. What state did you say?
Colorado. Yeah.
That's not what you said. That's not what you said. You said Colorado.
Colorado?
Something like that. There was no O on the end of it when you said it the first time.
Okay. Well, maybe. I am Southern, so...
You did Memphis the shit out of it right there.
That's fair.
What else?
Colorado. Now I'm going to be like...
You'll have Mandy Miller up your backside telling you how to say her state.
Yeah. Colorado, I guess. Whatever. It's cold. How do I care? It's just,
All right. What else?
Well, besides that, I'm plowing through my next Chase novel, where it comes out next month in June. Gulf Dreams. It's been a lot of fun to write. It's all over the west coast of Florida, so I can make sure I pronounce things correctly. Florida. But it's been a blast to write too. So, and just still plugging away with Missing in the Keys right now. So
cool, man.
Yeah,
Missing in the Keys is coming along really well.
Really good. Yeah. Looking forward to it. Getting the next
Talk
one
about
out,
action. So. Yeah. Talk about action. All right. We're going to move along now because I can't wait to ask this question. So please send in your questions to our email, which our email is twoauthorschat@gmail.com. I think that's it. It's in the show notes if I got it wrong. And Randley Kennedy from Indiana sent in a question.
Indiana.
Back home again in Indiana.
That was the fabulous Nick Harvey there.
Impersonating the chap, what's his name? I think he just passed away. Just trying to be respectful. The Indy 500, the guy that sings this song at the front. Indy 500.
That was you being respectful? That was wow.
It was, well, you never want to hear me sing. I've said that before.
Note to self, Nick is going to do my eulogy.
I think I could do a good eulogy.
Randy Lee, though, asked this great question, and she would like to know, when was the last time you were naked in public?
I try and avoid being naked in public just for the public's sake, quite honestly. But this wasn't necessarily, this was almost in public. Okay, so when we were living in California, we were in Dana Point. Our home was kind of built down a hillside, and it was like 3 stories. And in the middle of the night, it's like 1 a.m, we hear this noise downstairs, my wife and I. And I sit upright. I'm like, what the hell's that? She's like, I don't know. Sounds like someone's downstairs. And I jumped out of bed, and we were both starkers. And so I go out of the bedroom real quietly, and I can hear these voices downstairs, clearly coming from our living room. And I'm like, it's the TV. The bloody TV's on. Someone's watching our TV. And I'm like, oh, great. There's some guy stoned out of his gourd, wandered into our house and decided to surf the TV and watch something.
Flipped on the TV,
right?
Huh? Yeah.
So I'm creeping down the stairwell, and I'm thinking, I ought to have some. This is America, so the guy's probably, got an AK-47 or whatever. So I thought, I need something. And I brought back from Australia a didgeridoo for my wife years before.
Is that what you call it?
So I took out I was naked and I took out my didgeridoo. So I grabbed this didgeridoo, which if you don't know, it's a long hollow stick that the Aborigines play tunes on. So I'm like, well, this will make a club of some description. So I'm absolutely stark naked, creeping down the stairs with a didgeridoo in my hand to take on this stoner guy who I was convinced had turned on the TV in our living room. To this day, I have no idea why the TV came on, but there was no one in the living room. But it was like they sent an update or something, and it just played the TV. Scared the shit out of us.
Possibly you just chased them off with your naked didgeridoo. So
that could be. He was probably going to take me on until he saw me pick up my didgeridoo.
Well,
what do you got?
Okay, so I don't know if I've ever really been naked in public, but I do have. So we have a small farm just outside of Memphis, and several years ago, we had a lot of chickens and some goats at the time. And
love me a goat. Goats are the coolest.
Love you a goat. I bet you do.
Oh, I love goats.
And they love you until they see your didgeridoo. So
PG-13. Most of the time. That's
the little E that we have right beside our title there. So. Anyway, we did have one night again. I think I was getting out of the shower, and we heard a ruckus outside. And at the time, it was just me and my wife at home, so my kids were not there. It was just us. And so heard something, and we've been having trouble with foxes coming up, killing our chickens. And so I hear this racket. It's after dark. I just run out. I grab a 12-gauge shotgun, slip into a pair of Crocs, I think, and I run my ass up the hill trying to chase down this fox in the middle of the night.
So
bare ass naked.
Wait a second. You're naked, double-barreled in Crocs.
Yes.
In Crocs. Let's sit back and picture that for just a minute.
That's right. Yes, in Crocs. I mean, it's no didgeridoo, but it's
probably a tad more effective.
The best part was, sadly, the fox actually did have a chicken. And when I got there, the chicken was in the middle of a circle of goats who were watching this fox just beat eat the crap out of this chicken, trying to kill this chicken. And so I have these like 4 goats surrounding this chicken, and I can't get a shot at the fox to chase him off. So I have to actually run all the way into the.
What were the goats doing? Were they like heckling him on?
I think they were just all like, they all had this like weird look on their face, like they were just checking him out, watching him chase this chicken.
Were they betting on it?
Well, I don't know. It was I kid you not, there were about 4, maybe 5 goats in a circle around this fox and this one chicken who had run from the house halfway up the pasture, and he'd gotten loose once he got away from the fox once, and that was, I think, it was a rooster, and that thing could run. He was fast, but he wasn't fast enough. So, but it was pretty. Yeah, that was it. So I ran across the field. So hopefully Randy Lee can have that. Just
Yeah, just remember you asked, all right? You asked. This is your fault. Any mail about any of this segment, please write to Randy Lee Kennedy in Indiana.
Indiana. You can address it that way because in Indiana, no one, everybody knows her, I'm sure. So,
all right, let's move on, shall we? So the title of this week's show, I don't know why we title him. We're still doing it. I think we're going to stop titling because I don't know why. It's Following Passions, which actually is true of this one. So we interview a lovely and lively lady by the name of Annie Dike. She's a sailor, author, blogger, as well as a practicing lawyer. That's a weird term, isn't it? Practicing lawyer. If I hire a lawyer, I don't want one that's still practicing. I want them to be an expert at it.
Doctors do the same thing.
That's it. Yes, I heard someone
always just practicing. Yeah,
so. That's where I stole that from. Actually, I heard someone talking about doctors. That's right. Yeah, I don't want one who's practicing. I want one who's got it right. All right, let's talk to Annie.
And welcome to the show, Annie Dike. How are you doing today, Annie?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Love to ask you a little bit about yourself. If you want to tell us, kind of introduce yourself. And since I am a sailor, I definitely want to hear about your boat.
Well, good. She's the more interesting part anyway. So, yeah, it's funny you say lawyer. I sometimes forget that. It's like all evidence to the contrary. But I am a lawyer. Long, story short, started in Alabama. I was licensed there, practiced 6 years. Medical malpractice defense and insurance defense mostly. And then met Philip, and my whole world turned around because he told me the first night I met him, he was going to cruise around the world in a boat. I said, well, you shouldn't have told me because I'm coming. That sounds like a great plan. And so things took off from there, and I started my own company where I do legal services remotely. So I kind of started doing that back in 2013. Did legal writing and marketing and started working that way, which made us more flexible. Philip and I got our first boat, a 1985 Niagara 35 called Plaintiff's Rest, which is, we always get spotted on the water as lawyers. Some people just dinghy away and we're like, oh, that's fine too. But our reputation precedes us in the anchorages usually. And we sailed the wheels off of her, had a great time sailing her from 2013 until 2020. And during that time, I was initially I started making videos and my blog, and I wrote a couple books relating to sailing, which we can chat about, and had a lot of fun sharing it. I did a ton of videos, and they're out there. I stopped doing the videos 2017. It was just too consuming, and it's so much more fun to just be there rather than share it. And so that was a nice transition. That was a good choice for us. 2020 hit and damaged the boat, but did not take her, which was amazing. She survived in a boat graveyard, but it did, like a lot of people, it shook us up as in like, what do we want to do with our lives? We were able to work a lot as lawyers, but everybody was working remotely. Like all of a sudden, this is the new norm. And we're going, maybe this should be our new norm. Because before we'd been doing like 3 or 4 months cruising and then the rest of the time back home in Pensacola working. So in 2021, we sold the old boat to some really awesome friends who we are super close with now because they call with every question under the sun. What's this button? What does it do? And we're like, don't push it. But that's been a really fun transition. And we bought a 2015 Outbound 46, which is an exceptional boat. We didn't know about their make and model before, but when we started researching every layer we peeled back, it's like, this is a beast of an amazing boat. So bought her. Her name is Ubiquitous because she is found everywhere. We loved the name, kept it. And we spent about the last 2 years, I would say 95% of our time's been on the boat, like all year long. There was 1 year I only came home for like 3 weeks. Everybody was like, are you ever coming back? I was like, I don't know, we'll see. but you're welcome to come visit. That's always the rule. Anybody can come. You just can't pick a place and a time. You can only pick one.
Right. Yes.
And that's the rule. So we are happy full-time liveaboards that come home occasionally for work and mostly jury trials, which is kind of what we're here for now. So that's my story in a nutshell. And I'm happier than I deserve to be. And life's pretty darn good.
So did you make it around the world yet?
No. We've done Atlantic Circle, which is really cool. We've awesome. Crossed. Haven't done that in our boat, so that's kind of why another transition to the new boat, the boat that could more comfortably take us. Our old boat's totally capable, just comfort. But no, we did Atlantic crossing in 2016, helping to deliver a catamaran. And there's actually a movie. I made a 2-hour movie about that, which is surprisingly pretty darn good. Everybody starts it thinking they're never going to finish it. And they write me and they're like, I can't believe I sat there the whole time. It just flew by. Probably because everything breaks and we almost don't make it. So it's intriguing. It's kind of a mystery thriller. Like, are they going to make it? I don't know.
I feel like that's every time I go on the boat, something's going to break and I have to figure out how to get it back.
That's just boating. Yeah. So that was fun. And then in 2018 to 19, we helped deliver a catamaran. The first time was Florida to France. And then the second time was France down to St. Martin, actually, where you're headed soon. So those are our bigger trips. We've done Cuba too, which is amazing. We've been on our own boat. On our own boat, we've done mostly Cuba and the Bahamas, and now the East Coast on the new boat. We went up and down the East Coast this last year in New England and things like that, which was exceptional cruising. I was blown away.
Where did you go in Cuba?
I'm going to ask about Cuba.
Yeah, we went in 2016. And thankfully, before it kind of shut down and got locked down again. So it was, we were going to go to the Bahamas and then it opened up and Philip is super adventurous. He was like, oh, we're changing our plans. He was like, I'm not going to sail by Cuba and not stop there. So the coolest thing about it was the passage was really hard. It was into the wind. It was 5 days of just snot in your face. It was a tough sail. And so getting there after that sail was like, people were like, how'd you get here? And we're like, we just point to that boat. We're like, that beast right there brought us here. And that was just a really cool feeling. And Cuba they're so hospitable and they're happy people. They want to share everything with you. It was just a really cool experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Did you concentrate on one area or did you sail all the way around the island?
Oh, no. It would probably take too long to do that. When you could go back then, it was like a 14-day kind of pass and you had to give a reason like humanitarian or education or, do something to bring something to the country or have a purpose. And I was making the videos. So mine was kind of documentary, my YouTube videos back then. So that was an easy reason, but it did only give you a limited time. So we came into, because you can't just anchor anywhere, you have to enter their country and check in. You can't just drop a hook outside. So we went into Marina Hemingway, and from there we took a car over to Havana and spent a couple days on foot in Havana.
Yeah, Havana's amazing, isn't it?
It was exceptional. It is. It's like the beautiful ruins.
Yeah. It may have been 2016, actually.
That was you? No.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy without his pants on? That was you?
Yeah, the guy with no pants driving the taxi? That was me.
He had an accent that you can't tell. He sounds like every other body personal accent.
We went down to the Gardens of the Queen and we're diving on a liveaboard. Well, we weren't diving on the liveaboard. We were diving off the liveaboard for just over a week down there. Yeah, it's an amazing place.
That is super high on our list. What did it look like? Is it really well preserved?
Yeah, incredibly well. Yeah, the reefs are in great shape, and the diving is it's so limited how many people can get down there because they're uninhabited chain of islands. And the liveaboard we were on was actually a barge, like a houseboat barge that was anchored in between the little islands because it's just a mass of these little mangrove islands everywhere. And we would go out on a skiff every day and go to the different dive sites. Yeah, it was neat.
Oh, I'm jealous. That's way high up on our list. Very cool. That's awesome. You got to do that.
Are you a diver?
Nick's got a book that's The Garden of the Queens.
Sweet. I will read it. I am. Yeah, we're certified. We both have our patties and we don't do tanks and things on the boat. We usually rent all that stuff, but we love to go diving.
Good. Yeah.
What year did you guys move on the sailboat or go full time living that way?
Starting full time, I can remember this because it was 4-3-2-1. It was April 3rd, 21. because I was like, launch, it's the new chapter. And so we got on in April, and we were in, the boat was in Annapolis, Maryland. That's where we purchased it, and where the former owner kept it. And he's a very good friend now too. We've met a lot of great people in the outbound community. The first 21, so we left and went down the coast, down to Florida Keys, and went to the Bahamas and the Abacos, and came back up, and then did New England last summer in 2022. And now the boat's back down in the South Florida area, waiting for us to come back to her.
Where's next?
Yeah, so it's the boat's near Fort Lauderdale right now, and so that's a great jumping off point for the Bahamas, because it's like if you have a great weather window, it's like a 10-hour day sail, so it's really awesome. We did that in all through December. I want to say like mid-December into early January. We were in the Abacos. We love the Abacos.
Oh, yes.
But we want to go to the Exumas this next time when we get sort of our trials behind us. It'll probably be in April. It's a good time to go. So that'll be the next destination.
How many people did you come across who were encouraging versus discouraging when you kind of jump off and say, I want to go take a sailboat across the world? I mean,
it is a little odd, right?
Yeah, it is. People look at you kind of funny when you do that. I mean, I want to do it, but people look at me funny all the time. So
I get funny looks for different reasons, but I will say I'm a little different in that my family, a lot of them ran back in Clovis, New Mexico. That's actually where I'm from. And so I kind of cut out early on, to move across country, go to college, go to school. I do a lot of family in Alabama, but not kind of as tight family. So I understand your question, because we see this a lot. I know a lot of friends who had a very hard time convincing usually their parents this was a good thing to do, safe thing to do, especially those with kids. They get a lot of kickback. And I 100% agree. Life on the water is far more educational and enriching than any life possible. Personally, I'm biased. Doesn't make me wrong. But so I was definitely, my family's just, they know I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do all the time. So they were like, yeah, sounds great. Go do it. I will say the hardest thing that I faced in that regard, because I see, like I said, most people with family members or spouses that are against it. But my firm where I worked back in Mobile, Alabama, and this was to go cruising. We didn't have our boat yet, but it was so we could go cruising. I mean, I actually left. I was set on a partnership track about 1 year away from becoming a partner there. And to me, that just felt like so much more of an anchor. Like it was going to be more responsibility, more hours at that desk. And I just made me sick really thinking about it. And it was scary, but I told them, and they kind of didn't believe me, Doug. This is the funny part. They're like, oh, ha, 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 Annie, you don't know. And I was like, all right, August 2013, I told them. Then July comes, and I'm like, what are you guys going to do with all these files and my cases? And they're like, you're really leaving? I was like, I'm leaving. I'm like, I'm going. And so ironically, they let me work remotely like the last 6 months because they just didn't believe me. And that's kind of what started me working remotely, was making that work, because I left. And that was the harder part for me. It was kind of the career thing. Am I doing the wise thing career-wise, or am I making a grave mistake? Turns out I did the right thing.
Yes, that sounds great. Yeah, because, I mean, it's always better to be on the water anyway. So what do you think is like the sketchiest or maybe the scariest moment you've had on a boat?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I tell people, a lot of people worry about crossing oceans and stuff, like, oh my God, that's so dangerous. I tell you, driving down the highway is way more dangerous than being in my boat in the middle of the ocean. And I'm serious. My body is far more exposed to immediate injury when I'm driving a car, and people drive like maniacs. I hate driving. Physically, I've never been kind of really physically scared for my own physical well-being. I'm usually terrified of boat damage. I love the boat. Yes. She's like my extra arms and legs. And I'm afraid of her snapping her kneecaps off, and that kind of thing. So I hate being in extreme weather like that. But I will say, remember that trip to Cuba I said was the most difficult for us. And we were so heeled over with the tow rail buried, and just bashing forward and beating into it. And I just thought the boat was going to crack apart. The way it sounds when you go down below, and it's like, oh my God, and it's just the boat. I just don't want that to happen to the boat. But the passage to Cuba, I would say, was probably our more difficult. We faced the most winds. And that's a passage. We've had some anchorages where we have, huge storms roll through with 40, 45 knot winds. That's not fun. Those moments are not fun. The wind is both my friend and my enemy. She's my friend to me. So I'm not a fan of heavy winds, and I'm not a fan of bashing sailing, all that kind of stuff. That's not what we do. But for the most part, my body, I feel completely safe.
On the flip side, then, what was when you first started sailing? What was that moment when you were like, "Oh, this is it. I want to do this forever"?
The funny thing is, it was our very first passage was a shit passage. You can keep that in, bleep it, whatever.
Oh, no, that.
We got the boat, and I'm a very adventurous person, just by nature. My dad actually was a professional bull rider.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I did a lot of rodeo stuff as a kid, big tomboy, gymnastics, all that kind of stuff. And you tell me I can't climb that, I'm going to be climbing it in about 2 seconds. So just physically, I'm always up for kind of trying anything. And so Philip had talked about, the cruising and the passage making and stuff. And I'm just thinking, what hat should I wear? What's going to go with my tank top? That's all I could think about. I just didn't know what I was getting into. And we left Punta Gorda, kind of where Ian just really went through. We were talking about that. And we went offshore. And I thought, okay, well, let's go. Let's see what it's like. And like I said, it was 4 to 6 foot waves. It was like 20 plus knot winds. New boat to Philip, so he's an experienced sailor, but as you guys know, it's a boat. If you don't know the boat, you're kind of ignorant in so many ways. And we had one more crew member, but he got sick as a dog, so he was totally useless. And Philip's telling me, like, pull that bluish ropey thing. And I'm like, pull it which way? I mean, I don't know anything of what I'm doing. And it was horrible. It should have been a terrible passage. And we get to the end, I was like, that was awesome. And so Philip's like, okay, I think you're going to be okay. You're going to like this.
Soul, yes.
I was like, yeah, let's do it again. Now, since then, now that I care more about the boat, I don't like doing that because I'm afraid it's going to tear up my home, but then it was just kind of like, oh, this is our toy that we play with. I was so ignorant that it was fun. So that I was sold from that moment. But I will say the first time we anchored and we threw the anchor out, because I'd only been on the boat, it moving, always in constant movement, offshore passage for the first 6 days of boat ownership. And we finally dropped the hook and Philip's like, okay, you can just have a drink or sit down. And I'm like, the boat's not going to go anywhere? Like it's just going to stay? And so then it was kind of like, oh my God, this can be relaxing and just, hang out. And I was afraid to swim away from the boat because I thought it was going to move. But Philip's like, you can go swimming. It's fine. And so that was a cool moment too. I definitely remember that, like, aha, this is how relaxing and enjoyable it can be. So
I have a couple of questions for you. So I'm not a sailor. When you're talking about, hey, go get the red rope or the blue rope, I sailed once with a friend of mine who was a very accomplished sailor from Long Beach over to Catalina. He basically used me as crew to get over there because he needed one other person on the boat. And then his wife met him there and I had to come back on the ferry. So that's really my main experience sailing. And that's exactly what he did. This thing is heeled over. We're going, into the wind almost directly. It's like tacking a little bit. It was amazing to me how close to straight into the wind it could go. That was phenomenal. But I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The thing was never upright. So you're kind of feeling like you're going to fall off the side half the time. Or I did. And then he would say, pull that rope. So I pulled that rope. He'd go, less, don't pull it, let it out, whatever. He just sent me over and we made it across. Yeah. But it was quite exciting. But I come from a race car background. So I kind of want an engine and a steering wheel. And I had to go, the straightest point between two places. So, but I've always wondered, so when you're sailing,
fast too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's go faster. So when you're sailing between two long places, you have to man the helm the whole time, right? So do you rotate with Philip?
Well, I will say we have a very, very cool third crew member on our boat, which we call is the autopilot.
Yeah. Okay.
So we've got the boat. I mean, I'm not anyone to brag about anything. The autopilot's driving 98% of the time because he's just better than us anyway. He's a more accurate steerer. I'm serious. He holds a line. I get distracted and just start talking. I'm 10 degrees off, and it's like Otto's probably sitting there like, Jesus Christ, lady, come on, So, but autopilot's usually steering. And so we often, but every night shifts, so we always have somebody on watch. And so Philip and I usually do, everybody does it different. We usually do 2 hours on, 2 hours off all through the night. So the passages can get a little tiring in that regard and that you just don't get great sleep, but it's fine because you can sleep during the day. It's just, it's not day and night. It's just on shift, off shift is kind of what you convert into. But no, we don't hold the helm too much. I'll be just fair lazy sailors over here. But to your point though, about the sailing part, I always tell a lot of people because they're like, I'd love to do that, but I don't know how to sail. I'd say sailing is about 10% of what cruising is about to me. To me, it's boat maintenance. You're going to do a crap ton of boat work, boat cleaning, boat organization, boat, maintenance, all this stuff. I'd rather you be a diesel engine mechanic. You can come on my boat any day. I don't care if you know how to sail, because it's not the biggest part, And so
amen.
You just need to be durable and creative and have a good attitude. I need all those things, and then sailing is like, it's just pulling ropes, it's canvas in the air. Some people are a lot better at it, but you don't have to be great at it to get to the next island. You just put up some canvas and steer. So I don't ever want that to deter anybody.
No, it's when I first got my sailboat, like I grew up on power boats, and it was kind of, my wife was super nervous about sailing because we did it on a lake at first, which is a good place to start, but she's incredibly talented. Like, she could see the wind. She hates heeling, so she will keep it straight no matter what. So once it starts healing, she's like, she'll straighten it back up. So.
You get that feeling. I get it. Like, my heart, when we heal too much, my heart starts to, like my hairs stand up, and I arch my back, and Philip can see I'm getting in my little pose, but your body just tells you, like, this is weird. So you got to get used to it. I get that. Yeah.
So tell us, you've got several books out about sailing. Want to tell us a little bit about your books?
I had so much fun writing those. If you
we
read
like
any
writing
of them,
too, so
obviously, I know. I wish now I say more time to do it, but my day is spent writing. It's just not super fun writing. It's more legal writing, which I like, but I wish I had more time to write leisurely, because when I get done working, I don't want to sit at the computer anymore. I want to go watch a show or go walking or go do something else. But my first book, if you read anything, it still cracks me up to this day. Salt of a Sailor was the first one, and it started from, I started the blog back in 2013 when we first got the boat. And I didn't know where I would go with that. It was just humorous writing. I like to just kind of be funny and tell fun stories. I get that from my dad for sure, which is the kind of prologue in the book. And I started writing the blog, and people seemed to dig it, and they thought it was funny. I'm very self-deprecating. That's just kind of my nature of writing. It seems to play well, especially among the stuffy sailor men. It's just funny to have this blonde be like, pull the blue ropey thing. People are like, oh, I can relate to her. Not Mr. Oh, my yachting jacket, seas on the winch, sir. So I think it was a good fit.
Wait, she's taking the piss out of English now.
I know. I love your British accent, though. I wish I could talk that way all the time.
I gotta say, I think "Seas on the Winch" may be a great title for one of our tropical thrillers, right there.
Hey, well, you're welcome. You have the rights. I grant them to you. Which, speaking of, though, if we have them, I don't know if we'll get there because I don't want to take up all your time. But I do have maybe a book idea for you.
Oh, we take all the book ideas, absolutely. So.
Let's hear it.
To wrap up, so the blog, I'll tell you. Let me tell you, the book, though, the Salt of a Sailor was mostly my blog posts, which chronicled what I told you about, the ship passage of the first one. It's basically me going, oh my God, this is so crazy. What's going on? I'm so ignorant. It's kind of like, what do you call it? Innocence abroad. I'm just out in the Gulf of Mexico, but I find out what's going on. I learn and I get into it. And so it's a very funny book, just kind of, especially for women, because it'll just open them up to, you don't have to be super stuffy, yachty person to do this. And then my second book was Keys to the Kingdom. And that one I wrote about kind of leaving work, which I've said was a big, scary thing for me, and finding my way on the water. And I positioned it with a lot of old stories from my childhood in Alabama, which are just, to me, really funny. Like kind of tipping cows kind of stuff. And, just all that, just, cowboy stuff, which is, I will tell people too, that being someone who grew up on farms, I used to spend my summers with my dad in Alabama. And, we're mending fences. I'm getting the tractor running again. We're, putting barbed wire up, and all those things translated incredibly well to being a cruiser. And I just didn't know, but they did. I mean, I know how to grab a pair of pliers and jump in there. So that worked really well. And Keys to the Kingdom talks about that too. So that's two of them. And then I did write a third. It's just sort of a fun story about making a delivery. None Such Like It. But those are my three sailing books: Salt of a Sailor, Keys to the Kingdom, and None Such Like It.
We'll definitely add those to our show notes. So you can grab it. If people are interested in sailing, I've followed your blog for years before I bought my sailboat, and it was great. So
it's fun. I love the blog. It's just a great place to share stories.
It's amazing. So
so what's the idea? We want to hear it.
We need some.
Well, and I don't want to consume everything, but I've been debating writing this one for a very long time. We had at our anchorage, I told you the first one where we dropped the hook, where I was like, oh my God, the boat's still. It's called Fort McRae. I don't know if you guys are kind of familiar with Pensacola Bay at all. There's 3 forts. And so Fort McRae is the little anchorage near Fort McRae. And we anchored there all the time. We actually had a real live murder take place there in that anchorage while we were there.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty crazy. So it's, to truncate it, because it's usually a story we tell over 3 hours over cocktails, and we'll tell it anytime anybody wants to hear it, because it's just wild. But long story short, there was we came into the anchorage, and there's a boat there with its sail up, which just looks kind of funny on anchor with its sail kind of half flogging around. It's just going to make you go, what? And throughout the evening, like trying to chat with the guy on the boat, because often you'll dinghy by, what kind of boat you got? I like your boat. It's very common. He gives a weird name for the boat that's not what the boat is, not what the boat length is. He acts very funny. He has his nav lights on all night, his deck lights. Like something's just off with this boat in the anchorage when we've never seen before. And the dinghy was there day one. The next day, dinghy's gone. That's all we know. We're at the anchorage. And then we have Fish and Wildlife call us on Monday after our weekend and say, well, the guy that owns that boat's actually missing. And they show us a picture of the guy that we saw on the boat. He's not the owner of the boat. And I mean, and there's so many more like really cool, crazy facts. But what happened is I went to trial. I had to testify because I have my GoPro, because I'm doing my videos, right? So I have footage of all this that I have to go talk about to the jury. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. We find out this guy somehow just walked down the beach, got in the water, swam up to this dude's boat. The poor guy, the owner of the boat, killed him, strangled him, put his body in the dinghy, and dinghy behind us that night. I mean, we were all asleep on our boats with our companionways open. Nobody locks yourself up at night. Yeah, so he's like 40 feet from us, dinghying by with the guy's body, which is terrible. He's known in the community, a nice sailor. And he buried him near Pensacola, the NAS.
Wow.
Isn't that wild? Right?
Crazy.
And I have all like the DA file and all the photos and stuff. I got to pull them up. And I thought about it. It's going to write itself. I mean, it's pretty much, I don't have to do a lot to it. I just don't know about this crazy dude, man, at trial. Like, he knew my boat name. He knows my blog. And I'm like, do I want to poke that hornet's nest? I mean, he's in prison or whatever, but I don't know. I just felt a little funny about all that. And then we got busy, but that's a real story.
You can always change the names. I mean, it just move it to a different anchorage. It will be a little bit different. I mean, Nick and I we steal stuff all the time from real life to put in our books.
Well, it's better than fiction usually. A
lot of mine are set in Florida, and we had this discussion with another writer the other day, but there's nothing that I can write about that Florida Man didn't do already.
No, Florida Man. Oh my God, I love that. Carl Hyacin does a whole bit about Florida Man. If you ever heard it, it's amazing. Florida Man again, Florida Man this.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Well, I'm debating it. We'll have to, maybe if you guys want to run with that, you should
tell that would be great. You can write that while you're bouncing around the islands. It's a perfect one.
I need to. You've inspired me to maybe pull those files back up. It would write itself, like I said.
It would write itself, and then once you get it, you got it's a great characters in there. You can just throw them in there, and it's fun. So,
but I'm excited to read you guys' because I'm curious. I get to ask you the question: how did you get into tropical thriller?
I accidentally fell into it. Because I wrote a book, I wrote a book about things that I wanted to write a book about, which was scuba diving, the Cayman Islands, and a World War II U-boat. So I knew I wanted all those things in there, and I figured out how to piece a story together that included them all. And so then I wrote a book. And then after I was done writing the book, Amazon asked me what genre I wanted to put this book in. So I hadn't really thought about that before. I thought, it's a book, it's a mystery kind of book. And they're like, no, you need to do better than that. What's subgenre and stuff. I did a bit of research and found Sea Adventures, and then so I put it out in Sea Adventures, and that's literally how I fell into it. So 2 years later, when I decided I was going to write some more and I might as well make it a series, then I stumbled across the Tropical Author Group, and it seemed like a natural fit.
Found your people. That's cool. And I'm curious, both of you writing, do you have a lot of writing experience, or did you just say one day, I want to put words to paper?
Well, I've been writing since I was a kid. So I do have a journalism degree, although I never used it because it doesn't pay anything. So I've been writing since and I have another series, not tropical thriller as well, that I've been writing since 2010, publishing. That one just didn't, it was kind of a little more vague and didn't more of a straight, just kind of mystery. But I love, I've always been a water boat person. So writing about boats was kind of transitioned pretty well, and it just kind of took off. I always say, if you want to kidnap me, you can pull up in a boat. It could be a John boat. I'm like, I'll go for a boat ride and anything. So, so writing about boats was just fun. And so I just and once it took off, I was like, I can't write enough of them. So
very cool. Well, I'm curious. Have you guys ever heard of Ed Robinson?
Oh, yeah, of course.
In his
very much so.
books. Yeah, he was one of the first ones that I saw was and his aren't as mystery as, kind of, they're more thriller, I guess, action, but following Breeze and chasing Breeze. And I saw what he was doing and I thought that's probably really fun to have like a character that you kind of follow through all these sea adventures. And then he started pulling real characters that he meets at anchorages and bars and stuff like into his book, which I thought that would be really cool too. And I got to meet him finally in Venice, Florida. We ate at the Crow's Nest together and just had a whole night of cussing and laughing. And he smoked cigarettes back to back. But we had a really good time. And I just thought, that's a pretty cool profession for a boat. If you really could make it on that. We all know book sales aren't going to, let us get into retirement. But, I was really proud of him. I thought it was great. So
I don't know. That's all I'm
hoping my book sales.
Give me you need to give me some pointers, man.
I do not want another real job. I couldn't work for somebody else again. I think I can't stand working for myself, and I've had enough. So
I definitely can't go back to an office setting. I can't. It's just, if I had to dress up someday and like put a bra and go sit somewhere, I'd just stress out.
Dick barely put on pants this morning. So.
Yeah.
So I heard, right?
It's only because you're a female that I did.
I wish it could be, but I still love the legal stuff.
So you also have a new business you're doing to help people kind of figure out how to get into remote work. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in 2021, which, to backtrack, Philip and I always get the question because we're lawyers and we're out there cruising. And it used to be more in the beginning, about 10 years ago, that we were kind of the quote young ones out there. It's not the case anymore, but we're like mid-range to the upper level now. But more people are cruising. A lot more people started cruising in 2020. But we always got the question, how are you working, or how do you get that much time off of work to go cruising? And we're like, we don't. We're working out here. Like, we're still working. So it was always this theme of like trying to explain that to people. And so in 2021, we got the new boat. We were really going to be full-time liveaboards. We were like, let's start kind of a company that can help people with that. And there's a lot of people out there that, helping other people get into cruising. You could say Delos and all those people are doing it too. But we structured it as Philip is really good. He's a lawyer. He's an insurance lawyer, trial lawyer, like real, not just writing briefs in the background like me. He's boots on the ground. And so he's really good at how you structure your workforce, how you structure your case intake, how it would be more towards lawyers, it'd be better for lawyers, but professionals anyway, architects, engineers, things like this, training them how to build an infrastructure that lets them do their high-end credentialed job remotely. So how do you make that work with the internet? How do you make that work with your clientele, with your clients? How do you talk to your clients about that? So they don't think you're just out there drinking a cocktail, you're actually working. And so we created Sail Plan LLC as a consulting business for people that are, hey, let's talk for 2 or 3 hours about how I can make my accounting firm go remote. How did you do that? What software do you use? So that's kind of what we started. It hasn't done too much because we've been so busy working, but it's there. And definitely anybody who wants to check out the website and give us a phone call, we're happy to talk about it.
But we'll throw that into the show notes as well. So, I'm sure a lot of people that watch us are kind of thinking the same thing, as that we kind of strive to kind of work outside the norm. And we don't, full-time writers, bouncing around kind of, we're different anyway. So
we are cut from a different cloth.
Absolutely. So before we go, I got one final question for you, and we have a little game we play. So I have this fancy wheel. It's our wheel of questions.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yes.
Is it really fun?
Oh yeah, it's really fun. It's really fun. But it's and of course this isn't visual, so the main reason we got it is for this fabulous sound. So I'm gonna spin this wheel and ask you a question off of here. Super hard questions sometimes, but
am I wearing pants?
That's great. All right, let's see. See, the sound is great. Isn't it?
I gotta get one of those. That's like Price is Right, man.
Okay, so our question for you today, Annie, is who is your least favorite band or singer?
Oh my gosh, now that's this sounds terrible. I'm afraid, like, what if she watches this podcast? She's not gonna watch this.
Let's hope she does, just in case.
I don't like Celine Dion.
What?
I hope she doesn't sing.
Oh my God, the whole of Canada just like turned off.
I know, that's why I didn't want to say it, but she's great voice, amazing voice. I think her songs are such cheesy drama. It's just like, I'm trying to even think of one. God, I can't. Oh, that Titanic one, Lost My Heart in the Ocean, and that one, or like The Last Time We Touched, and they're all just so dramatic, and she has these concerts where she sings, and it's just not my type of music. So, there were nights when the wind was so cold. I mean, it's just like, take it back a notch, but sorry, you had to ask. So, Celine, I apologize. You're successful, famous. You're doing wonderful things. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Wow. She didn't even make the Rolling Stones top 100, so I wouldn't worry about her too much. So that was a big deal. Like,
As a lawyer, I'm a little nervous about like disparagement. I don't know.
That's not disparaging. We all have different tastes, don't get me started about Ed Sheeran. So
he does look a little funny. He cracks me up because he says that, whatever man upstairs gave him a singing voice because he's like, look at me. I look crazy. And I was just like, it's true. I mean, I just have to agree with that.
I mean, the man's talented. He's very good. And like my wife loves him and he's very good. But he came out with like all this, like in 1 year, there's 150 songs came out by him and hit number one every one time. I'm like, come on, guys.
You're just jealous. You're not actually commenting on the substance of his singing.
Well, no, I mean, some of it's just kind of the same. No, because I really hate Bruno Mars. He has no talent. That's a whole different thing altogether. So.
Oh my God.
That's for another wheel and another day.
Look at Nick. Who is yours, Nick? What is your least favorite?
Oh, let me think about that long and hard. Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to shove that flute where the sun don't shine. Yeah. I can't stand that damn flute. It really kills me. But, Ed Sheeran, we saw Ed Sheeran in concert and it was tickets my wife got through work. And we're like, oh, yeah, we'll go see this guy. He was actually phenomenal. He plays by himself, right? And then he records a loop, but he records it right there and then. So he stands on the stage and he like taps out a beat and records it, loops it. And then he'd do like a chord on the guitar and then he would loop that. And then he would like hum a backing vocal. He'd loop that. And then he'd start playing and singing with all this stuff that he'd just recorded going on in the background. And that's how he did the whole concert. It was truly amazing. He was, wow. I was impressed. Yeah.
He really is actually really good.
Yeah, I've seen that in person. And when they like architect a song like that, it's amazing how their brain can hear that and build that right in front of you. I've seen that too. And it's just super impressive.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we alienate any more Canadians, we should probably say thank you.
I know, I'm a little scared. I can't believe this went by so fast. It was so fun. Thank you, guys.
It's been great. No, it's so much fun. So thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. We'll, having you aboard.
My privilege, my honor, and my pants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening in. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Remember, if you can, to subscribe to the show, please give us a 5-star review, maybe a comment or two. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to our books and social media and everything that we mentioned in the show that Annie has, her books. And if you can, support the show by buying or gifting our books. So you can find both of us on Amazon, Douglas Pratt and Nicholas Harvey. Buy one of our books, shoot us an email, tell us how much you enjoyed it, ask some questions.
Questions. We love questions. And trying to just remember, be careful because we might answer them. So, all right, our next episode will be up in 2 weeks, so tune in for that. Until then, be cool to each other.
Fair winds and following seas.
You've been listening to the Two Authors Chat Show with Nicholas Harvey and Douglas Pratt.